Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 15, Episode 12. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being back with us here this Monday, Steelers Nation. And this is not the Dave Bryan gloom, despair, and agony portion of the show. At least I hope not. But the vibes are not as high exiting the weekend as they were entering the weekend. A 9-3 snoozer of a loss for the Pittsburgh Steelers in their second preseason game against the Buffalo Bills on Saturday night. That alone would be bad enough, but a couple of injuries, some serious injuries to talk about in this one too, to center Nate Herbig and running back Jaylen Warren. So, Dave, a lot to talk about, most of it not the greatest news in the world.
Yeah, a little bit too early for a preseason. I don't know. They're playing preseason Renegade, right?
I saw. I heard.
I don't know. Maybe it's not too early for a preseason gloom, despair, and agony on me. Yeah, not a very entertaining game at all for both sides of the football, really, to be honest with you. And went through the TV tape that night and have since gone through the all 22 on both sides of the football. But more importantly, as you kind of said at the top of the show there, we've got a couple of injuries to talk about coming out of this game. And, you know, one obviously could impact the 53-man roster to start the season as well, too. So that's as good a place as any to start what all Mike Tomlin said about injuries coming out of the game and what's being reported since then.
Yeah, let's talk about the injuries first, and then we'll dive into the game itself. The most serious one is with center and offensive lineman Nate Herbig. We know that he got hurt on Wednesday. The last training camp practice, I talked about, it looked like a left arm or left shoulder that we're working on. Didn't know the status of it. Mike Tomlin called it a training camp injury. And then post-game against Buffalo, he said he was getting a second opinion on the injury, which is never a great sign. Jerry Dulac reporting yesterday that it's a torn rotator cuff and that Herbig is in jeopardy of missing the entire 2024 season. Less serious, although certainly still notable and potentially impactful for week one, is running back Jaylen Warren, one of several players who have a hamstring injury against the Bills, according to Tom Pelissero and other reports. Warren is expected to miss, quote, multiple weeks. His week one status is in question. Pelissero's report indicated Pittsburgh maybe seemed a bit optimistic he would be back for week one at Atlanta, but no guarantee of that given the tricky nature of these hamstring injuries. So those are the big two. Herbig more serious, Frazier becoming this team's starting center, and then the race will be on for Jaylen Warren to get back for week one.
Yep, that's where we stand. Now, the good news is that as of yesterday being Sunday, there's 3 weeks, right?
September 8th is the week one opener.
Right. So, yeah, you obviously shut down Jaylen Warren until then, and hopefully you can get him back on the field by week one. So it's still right there in probably that 2 to 4 week time frame, but hopefully they can get him back going. As far as Herbig goes, man, that's something that you noticed right off the bat when he was over there on the side during training camp over there, and then this thing slowly has progressed in the reporting, and obviously did not play in the preseason game against the Bills. And then, even ahead of that, it was reported that, this could be a severe shoulder injury, and then now rotator cuff and all. So at a minimum, depending on how long he's sidelined for, he's going to go. I guess the decision now is hopefully we'll get a write-up from Dr. Mel here pretty soon. Is this for sure a season-ending injury? And obviously, if it's not, then he's probably one of those guys that you're going to hold on to until the final cut down, so you can move him to IR so he can receive the designated to return status, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, to be clear, and you can detail this as well, the rule has changed where no longer does a player have to be kept on the initial 53 to be transferred to IR to be able to return later in the season. They just have to be on your 90-man or 91-man, in this case for Pittsburgh, on that final cut down day, August 27th, and then they can go straight to IR. They no longer have to occupy a spot on the 53 at any point.
Right. And we used to call that the old do-si-do, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
right.
what the team, and it didn't make much sense, you know, to have to kind of, we got to cut you, and on Tuesday we're going to bring you back, you know, just so we can get this guy to IR. Now I believe you can only have 2 players that go from on the final cut down day straight to IR that can qualify for designated return, right?
I believe so. The language, I'd have to double check, but that sounds right.
All right. So, you know, barring significant stuff happening here in the next, final preseason game and practices here, you would probably expect Nate Herbig to be one of those players. Very unfortunate for him, but look, this thing kind of felt anyway that, you know, if you open up the gate any for Zach Frazier, that he was going to walk through and possibly close it behind him. And I think overall in his play in these first 2 preseason games was probably going to be enough to get that done. Well, now it doesn't matter. As we always like to say during the preseason and all like that in training camp, these things just have a weird way of working themselves out. Well, this one's worked out right now. Zach Frazier is going to be your week 1 center. So the question then becomes, who is going to be your week 1 backup center, right?
Mm-hmm. It is. And it's kind of crazy. We talked about, and obviously we didn't expect it to go under these terms, but we said who starts that second game in the preseason, the center is probably going to tell you who is starting week 1. And it's Zach Frazier because of the injury. I think had Herbig been healthy, he would have started this game, but it just, we had that discussion, I think, midway through training camp when Herbig had a strong start and you were wondering, okay, is Frazier, you know, a lock to start week 1? He wasn't, but that has obviously dramatically changed based on Herbig's injury. So for the backup, it is pretty wide open. You got internal candidates. You can really call 3 offensive linemen as potential backup center, options for this team. And Spencer Anderson, who has not played center this training camp, but played it as a rookie and played it some at Maryland. You have Mason McCormick, who Pittsburgh worked out as a center right before the draft. He's primarily a guard. He's played a tiny bit of center this summer. And then you have veteran Ryan McCollum, who's been on the practice squad for 2 seasons, has about 100 career NFL snaps with Detroit in 2021. But is he worth keeping on the 53? That's a debate. There's also, of course, any external veteran options you could bring in from the outside.
And look, they went into it. I don't know how much of Mike Tomlin really wanting to win this game and get a long look of Justin Fields with some sort of offensive line that he can maybe work with. They only had 10 offensive possessions, right? 5 of them went to Russell Wilson, 5 of them went to Justin Fields, and you had to know going into this game that Nate Herbig and the possibility of that shoulder injury being serious there. I don't know about you. We talked about this ahead of the show. I was really interested to see if they were going to get McCormick or Spencer Anderson any snaps at center in this game. Because, I mean, let's face it, there's a lot of preseason tape at this point on McCollum, right? And I did expect McCollum to have some snaps in this game, but so far this preseason, there's been only 3 players to take snaps at center in preseason games, and that's been obviously Herbig, Zach Frazier, and Ryan McCollum. Maybe they like Ryan McCollum more than we think that they like Ryan McCollum. And although Mason McCormick Mason McCormick has less snaps overall than I think even Nate Herbig did coming out of college at center. And then, Spencer Anderson's dabbled in it, but as you stated, you didn't see him do that much during training camp, right?
Right, he didn't take a single snap in team at center. He would snap when quarterbacks would come down and go through their very initial warm-up drills where it was just center QB exchanges. Anderson would often take part in that. McCormick would sometimes as well, because you need four centers with the four quarterbacks. And so you would have Herbig and Frazier and McCollum. Need that fourth guy to either be Anderson or McCormick. So do they like McCollum enough to put him on the 53? They have in the last 2 years. There was an opportunity last year. We thought maybe he could be the backup center with some of the uncertainty there, and that obviously did not happen. I think this, assuming Herbig goes on IR, which he will, Anderson becomes to me really a lock to make this team. There's just too much versatility. There are too many injuries to Herbig, to Fautanu, even if he comes back week one, where Anderson can do just so much for you right now that it's not a guy I think you want to cut. So you're back to 9 offensive linemen. Will it be Cook and Anderson with those last 2 spots? Will it be McCollum? Will it be somebody else? We'll have to see. I mean, I think this week will be really interesting because Herbig got injured, pretty close to the end of training camp. He only had the joint practice against Buffalo on Thursday to really be able to work other centers in there. So with a full week and kind of a full understanding of Herbig's situation, not that we'll see it during the week, but maybe reflective in the Detroit game, maybe we'll see Anderson or somebody get some extra center work.
Yeah, that looks like, in other words, you think if they were, well, I mean, look, there could be another center on another roster right now, right? And
sure.
But you would like to think that guy is guard capable too, right? Like Herbig. Now, obviously, the last couple of preseasons they have played McCollum at both center and I believe both of the guard spots as well too. But once again, do they like him more than which doesn't mean a hill of beans amount to a hill of beans? Do they like McCollum better than David Alex like McCollum? Mm-hmm. Is the question. And are they satisfied enough with what maybe Anderson and Mason McCormick can maybe give them in a pinch in those situations? And then James Daniels does have some experience at center should they have to turn to that.
Yeah, but it's been quite some time since he's played center. I really wouldn't expect him to do it unless they absolutely had to for some reason. I just make the point about watching this week to see if they give Anderson and McCormick the opportunity. I just want to see who gets center snaps in this finale. I think and I hope you'd see something of Anderson at least, or maybe McCormick, but I think more likely Anderson.
I was hoping maybe in this game, in this second preseason game.
Yeah, but maybe that turnaround to try to get these guys reps was a little too tight, and of course you wanted to get Frazier a bunch of snaps, and you probably hadn't had Anderson snapping to Justin Fields in this one with the other offensive line issues. Might have just been too much going on to try to really get clean evaluations and clean work with the issues they had in week one. So my point is, I think with a longer week, there's some more time to kind of get these guys reps and really be able to work maybe an Anderson or McCormick in, and then get them ready for game action, as opposed to working them on one practice on a Thursday and then trying to get that ready to go for a game on Saturday. That could have created some issues.
All right, and we're at the portion now where practices aren't open to the public, and I believe the media has to get players to confirm that, you worked at center today, didn't you? So maybe some of that stuff will leak out of these practices this week, and then when we get to the Thursday Mike Tomlin press conference, it'd be interesting if he's just asked directly, will Spencer Anderson or Mason McCormick get work at center in this game?
Sure, I'd love for him to be asked. I mean, I think he'll mention them as potential candidates. Also, just one last thought on Herbig. He's a free agent after this year. Is this the last down we've seen Nate Herbig play in Pittsburgh?
It's quite possible, and I wondered late last night when updating my mess of a salary cap spreadsheet of mine that's got calligraphy all over it. I wonder if they go to Nate Herbig and ask for him to take a split salary cut, the same percentage that they did Holcomb. I need to check with Joe Corey, but I don't think Herbig has a split salary clause in his contract. I could be wrong, but if not, I do almost wonder. He's set to make $4 million in cash, I think, this year. That's a lot to have hanging out there, and I guess could he be cut outright,
Well, I think with the injury, I don't think they're going to end up cutting him. I'm not even sure if they'd really be able to do that because he is severely injured, it appears. I don't know for sure, but I'd be surprised if they did a split salary with Herbig. This just feels more like a conventional injury, and Holcomb, his situation was more unique in this more serious long-term injury that, bled over from one season into the next. So I think that created a special situation with him. I don't think it's the same with Herbig getting hurt mid-camp.
All right, so you would be surprised at this point of this team if the week one, based on, obviously a lot can happen in the final preseason game here, but based on where we sit right now, you'd be a bit surprised if an outside offensive lineman is on the 53-man roster week one.
Well, I think it's still possible. I just think we'll see something of Anderson and or McCormick at center, and I want to see how that looks before this team makes a decision from there, because they don't have to make an outside decision, until the 27th, essentially, once cut down start and you start putting in waiver claims and evaluating the names out there. So I am sure that Sheldon White in the pro scouting department is scouring the waiver wire and scouting, not the waiver wire, but looking at all 31 other teams to see what potentially could be out there. I just think we'll get some Anderson or McCormick work. I hope we do at least against Detroit to see what that looks like, to get Pittsburgh the fullest picture before making that decision.
All right, and also, if we are to believe the recent picture that's floating around on the Twitter machine of Mason Cole, which obviously we can't verify or not, but several people are claiming, yeah, that's him right now. I don't think you have to worry about Mason Cole being an option here.
And for those who haven't seen it, there's a picture that is apparently of Mason Cole, and he has lost a ton of weight. He is he is basically in retirement.
He's Alex's size.
Yes, he is 130 pounds now. He's not 130, but he's not whatever he was playing at last year. So if that is real, and like Dave said, we can't exactly verify that. It appears to be real, but we can't say with certainty the context of the photo, and if that even is really him. It is the Alan Faneca status of dropping a ton of weight, which obviously means he's no longer going to play in the NFL, no longer an option for Pittsburgh. And so if they go external, it'll be another name other than Mason Cole, it appears.
Wonder if that Hainsey kid is safe in Tampa Bay.
It's a good question. What's going on with Robert Hainsey after they draft Graham Barton, who apparently I think Barton has gotten some positive marks this summer. Anyone have a Buccaneers roster prediction pulled up right now?
I don't.
I'll pull something up here. Yeah, I'll go through names. I did some light research. Heck, could they even bring back J.C. Hassenauer, who signed in Washington like a week ago, right before everybody got hurt in Pittsburgh, and a guy that knows the system, well, not knows Arthur Smith's system, but just knows Pittsburgh, and I believe he was with Pat Meyer as well. So could that be an option? There's Sam Mustipher in Denver. Maybe he's not going to be on the outs. He's a Raven, kind of know him from the AFC North. So we'll see. The one Buccaneers prediction, I think, has Hainsey on the 53, but that's just one projection I'm looking at right now.
All right, tell the folks about the other injuries and players that did not play coming out of the game against the Bills before we get into breaking down the actual game.
Yeah, a couple of injuries also to note here. Anthony Averett, the corner, had a hamstring injury. He did not return. He's a guy that is going to certainly need some reps here. Beanie Bishop was curiously not dressing in this game, did not play against Buffalo, and thought with Braylon Arnold's injury, real chance for first team slot corner reps again for Bishop. Mike Tomlin said that Bishop was limited during Thursday's joint practice against Buffalo, and the team wanted to be prudent with him and be careful with him and have him fully ready to go against Detroit. So the good news is it appears that Bishop will play against the Lions in the preseason finale. Other injuries, Peyton Wilson had a concussion in this game. He's being treated for that per Mike Tomlin. So we'll see if he's able to get out of protocol by the finale. Odds to that don't seem great, but we'll just have to wait and see. Guys who did not play against Detroit due to injury or rest: Cam Hayward, TJ Watt, rested. They're healthy, but they did not play due to rest. Alex Highsmith, Jonathan Ward, and those are the other two guys, Highsmith and Ward, that did not play due to injuries. Highsmith recovering from the groin. Mike Tomlin said he's making progress, should be good there. Ward with the hamstring, don't know his status going forward. Some guys did return, and Dante Jackson and DeMarvin Leal, they both played, and that was good to see.
All right. That's got us, I think, caught up on everything, right?
Yep. All right, let's get to the game itself. 9-3 loss, the lowest scoring combined preseason game Pittsburgh has played in since 2014, when they were shut out by the Carolina Panthers in those annual finales, 10-0. Only a field goal for Pittsburgh in this one. Chris Boswell missed a 52-yarder, and Justin Fields missed a would-be touchdown to wide receiver TJ Luther. We can talk about maybe Blaine there a little bit later in the show. I guess in one sense it wasn't quite as sloppy as the opener, but it was still messy and somehow even less exciting.
Yeah, it was like watching, I don't know, that offense kept shooting themselves in the foot, and you got yourself in too many situations where long distance situations, especially early in the game, giving up a handful of sacks early. And Russell Wilson, I think, was sacked 3 times in total in this game, a couple of early. Mike Tomlin went into this saying he wanted to give Russell Wilson and the first team group 4 series in this game. You had a feeling as they were clicking them off here that it might end up being a little bit more. It ended up being 1 more series, 5 in total. I really was kind of hoping that they would have left Russell Wilson in for that 2-minute drill at the end of the first half. But I mean, I guess they had seen the amount of plays that they had wanted to see from Russell Wilson at that point. Man, it's hard to get anything done when you got defensive guys in your quarterback's lap. I think we were able to see a few okay things from Russell. Look, he was 8 for 10 overall for 47 yards. So from a completion standpoint, he got that job done. I think one of those balls, maybe that was incomplete, probably should have been caught. Who was that? Jefferson, I think, didn't he have a drop over there on the right side? Was that from from Wilson? So you did not really get to see Russell Wilson push the football down the field that much. A couple of these completions were like third down, throwing underneath the umbrella of the defense, not forcing the situation. You did not obviously see Russell Wilson on his wheels, scrambling the way you did see Justin Fields do throughout once he got into the game there. Mike Tomlin, in essence, called it an incomplete here when it comes to Russell Wilson. And even though he played, how many snaps in total did he play? He had a couple three and outs in there.
Yeah, just do 3 times 5, it seems like. No, it was probably like 20 snaps.
Yeah, 20. Where is it here? 21 snaps in total. Man, you even had a Calvin Austin III false start in there on top of it there. It did feel incomplete here, Alex, to me overall. There wasn't anything. There was maybe one time where you thought maybe Russell Wilson could have got the ball out, I think, and maybe avoided one of those sacks there. But overall, I don't think we learned a lot about Russell Wilson, because of the way that offensive line played, or, not more than what we already did know. And look, these 2 quarterbacks were sacked quite a bit last year, right? 100 times, I think, in total when you look at both these guys. And what's one of the things we talked about both these guys, man, you got to play on rhythm. You got to get the football out quickly here. And, obviously you didn't see enough of that, especially with Wilson in here. And, you didn't see the football pushed down the field by Wilson in this game either. So it is hard to come away with a firmer up analysis of Russell Wilson's play in this game.
I agree. And it's hard to get into a rhythm when you're in 3rd and forever. I mean, Pittsburgh had 6 third downs with Wilson in the lineup, and they averaged 9.5 yards to go across those 6 third downs. Only converted one of them, which was a 3rd and 2, which was a good read and a good concept mesh sit with Wilson hitting Van Jefferson over the middle for 11 or so yards. But other than that, you were in 3rd and 10, 3rd and 14. I mean, your offense never gets into a rhythm when you can't obviously get a first down, get a drive going. But when you're sitting at 3rd and forever, your play calls are more limited. You're checking down, and the O-line was not doing Wilson any favors to protect him. So the ball really had to get out quickly just avoid getting killed, which Wilson already kind of did, taking a couple of hits at this one. So I had said I hope to see Wilson scramble once, and hopefully it wouldn't be under duress. We got to see him scramble, and he was under duress. So the issue is, this offensive line protecting their quarterback, regardless of who it is, and they did not do that job. And Pittsburgh, just overall, the negativity and lack of getting any sort of rhythm and putting themselves in the third and long really made it hard to evaluate Wilson, because you're just kind of watching him just have to check the ball down against, loose zone coverage on 3rd and 12.
Right. Was there anything really egregious to you that stood out about Wilson in those 21 snaps? We did see the first two were pistol, by the way. So we saw him in pistol, we saw him under center, we saw him in shotgun.
Yeah, nothing egregious on the first sack. Maybe he ran into it a little bit early, but I know there was pressure, and maybe he was just thought he could get a step and get the edge to get away from it. So I wouldn't call that egregious, but maybe a bit of blame for Wilson on that, even though the majority of it's going to go to Broderick Jones and the protection on that play. But there just really wasn't a situation to really judge him accurately in, because it was just a lot of 3rd and long ball.
Right. What did you think about that unit as a whole? Even though they had they obviously rotated in some offensive linemen and all. There were a couple of decent run plays. They ran that crunch to the right side with Najee here. I thought, even though PFF scores don't reflect it with Zach Frazier, especially in the run game, I think his pass protection grade was a lot better. I think what brought him down was his run grade, and I did see some of those, kind of cutoffs where I thought he could have probably done a better job on it. And there was that one play over to Quez Watkins, I believe. Was he in? I think Wilson was still in the game at the time. I can't remember. You had both Frazier and Dan Moore Jr. out in space. It looked like, oh man, that thing should have busted for more than the 6 yards that it had on that play. Offensive line, left to right in this game, started out being Dan Moore Jr., Isaac Seumalo, Zach Frazier, James Daniels, and Broderick Jones. The real glaring thing within all that, within that unit, was the play of Broderick Jones.
It was, and that's kind of the elephant in the room of this game. The caveats to every conversation that's taking place around the NFL right now is it's preseason. You can't judge it too much. You can't put a ton of stock into things positively or negatively. And I think that applies to Pittsburgh as well, except for Broderick Jones. That's a guy I'm really concerned about right now. I think there is real concern once the season starts. We had talked about that he did not play well against Houston. That was less discussed because there weren't as many of the sacks and pressures, and the offense was not completely as inept, and the focus of their issues were more on the exchange problems that they had and some of the penalties. But Jones is a wreck right now. He is just a complete mess, a shell of what he was last year. He's got an elbow injury of some sort. He's got that big brace on his arm, which he's been wearing for the majority of training camp. I have to think that's impacting him to a pretty heavy degree. But regardless of reason or explanation, this is a guy that, if this is his current form for week 1, I don't know how you can justify playing him, especially assuming that Troy Fautanu is healthy, which the reporting indicates that he will get cleared for that Falcons game. Jones is not able to protect his quarterback right now, and that's the bottom line.
It's very concerning right now when it comes to him, and obviously with Fautanu missing this game, he played all of his snaps at right tackle, so did not get any snaps at left tackle in this game after playing some really kind of uninspiring 20-something snaps, I think, in that first preseason game at left tackle. It is very concerning when it comes to Broderick Jones at this point. And then you're back to the whole talk of, have the Steelers let him down by not working him, not doing enough to get him back over to what is, really his more natural side. And would that even make a difference? And obviously the other part of the conversation is he's wearing that brace on his right arm. how healthy is he, and is that impacting his performance overall? But I will say this, though, if the guy's not healthy enough to get out there and defend himself and give himself a chance, it's hard to believe that the Steelers would put him in that position, wouldn't you think?
But they're doing it right now. And if there was a time to get him some rest, this would be the time. Now, I don't know the details of the elbow injury. I'm just going to start to wildly speculate for a second. Maybe this is something that can't be solved with rest. Maybe there's a surgery that's going to come after the season and you're trying to just to manage through it right now. I don't know, but they're playing him now. He's hurt. He's ineffective. I mean, in terms of what is actually happening, his punch is a wreck. His hands are way too wide. They're way too high. I think he's having to use a two-hand punch all the time, which Pat Meyer does not always like using. He likes to use independent hands, one-handed punches. And when you do that two-handed punch, you're more susceptible to getting your arms knocked down and losing, and that's kind of what's happening with Jones. But I think because he really just can't generate power with that right hand and right arm, he's having a two-hand punch, and it's a wreck. It's a mess, and this can't continue if he's going to start.
I agree. Rousseau just treated him like he was a undrafted free agent.
Yeah, I mean, the first sack there, he gets run through. The second one, I think, was even worse, him solo and just getting bowled through. But if you can't punch, I don't care how athletic you are. Look, he's still moving fine. He's out of his stance. He looks athletic. They pulled him a couple times, some of those crack tosses. He can still run. Obviously, it's the arm. But I don't care how big you are, how long you are, how athletic you are. If you can't punch and use your hands, I mean, those are your keys, obviously, and he can't do that right now.
Right. And this kind of rolls back into that pre-game report, I guess, from Jerry Dulac, and stating that, well, if Troy Fautanu is healthy, he's going to be your starting right tackle. And then that makes the competition still for the left tackle spot between Dan Moore Jr. and Broderick Jones. And although Dan Moore's not going to make the Pro Bowl based on what we've seen off of the 2 preseason games so far, but it's easy for him to stand over to the side and say, don't look at me, look at him, In other words, Broderick Jones is the biggest, like you said, elephant in the room at this point. And let's say Fautanu misses this last preseason game. He hasn't had a lot of preseason time either. He just played in that first half of the game against the Texans. Now, although you can roll back to, well, they saw enough of them during training camp and all like that, which obviously you did. I didn't. But if you have more comfort in Fautanu at right tackle than you do, you got to put your best. What do they always say, Alex? Put your best 5 out there, right?
Mm-hmm. Sure. And right now, Jones,
or your healthiest 5.
Yeah, which sometimes they go hand in hand, your healthiest and your best. And listen, I've griped as much as anybody about the frustration of this team flip-flopping Broderick Jones, not making him the left tackle. And I think there's probably maybe a force multiplier effect of when you have an injury and have been bounced around the way that he has. But him going back to left tackle, it's not going to cure the issues he's dealing with right now. He did not look like this last year, didn't look like this at the beginning of training camp. Didn't even look quite this bad against Houston, but he had, I think, a pretty poor performance overall. This is a technique issue. If you can't punch, if your hands are wide, you're not hitting your target, I don't care if you're left side, right side, playing center, not going to work. And I have to think this injury is impacting that. But regardless of reason, like I said earlier, it doesn't really matter the why. It just matters the what. And the what right now is this guy cannot, pass protect.
He's still trying to rely too much on traits other than technique.
But I get that, but it's not like, he knows his punch he has to know his punch is not accurate right now.
Right. He's technically flawed.
Right. But I don't think it's him like trying to rely on the traits. I don't think he's
sitting there saying, an athletic guy, and strong guy and all like that. You can get away with that for only so long, but he's just, he's a train wreck right now.
No, he is. Yeah. But I think I have to think it's more because he's hurt, because he wasn't doing these things last year. He was playing more technically sound last season. It's just, I think it's maybe, I don't know. I don't know if it's the brace that's kind of heavier and is.
What I'm getting at, he's trying to go off of just raw ability.
No, I think he's just hurt. I think he's just
That's what I'm
struggling
saying.
to compensate.
Raw ability because of things he can't do. He's limited by his body.
Right. So I don't know if it's he can't get power.
Why would you roll unless, like you said, they say, well, look, it doesn't matter if we gave this 7, five sat you down for 5 weeks. This thing is going to be an issue for you that you're going to have to learn to deal with until we can get it fixed.
Right. That's just me speculating.
And maybe that's the case, but we don't know.
Right. We don't know. But I mean, he's had this on for the majority of training camp. And that thing takes like 10 minutes to strap up. Like there was the one Friday night lights practice. He didn't even work in warmups because he had to spend the whole time getting that brace put on by the trainer. It takes forever to get everything strapped up. So,
if you start overcompensating for stuff like that, then the longer that you do it too, you're going to fall into bad habits. On top of it, then when you finally do get healthy, you're going to have to correct some of the stuff that you've been doing with it. So, look, we would just be speculating and are speculating as to how it's an easy crutch because he's got this big old brace on there, and because he's technically not playing as good as he even did last season at right tackle, which at its whole wasn't going to get him to the Pro Bowl or anything like that. But you do kind of wonder if this thing is more long-term, what kind of surgery is involved, and would you be doing your team the best interest to go ahead and get that fixed now, and then letting them get so let's say maybe he can come back later part of the season type of thing.
Sure. If there's just got to be something has to change, whether that's being able to clean up his technique or giving him any rest if that's an avenue to getting him healthier. But I assume this brace, because it's heavier, maybe it's harder to get your hand in the right spot. Maybe it's harder to create the power that you want with this brace as well. And again, it may be changing his technique. I think he's not always used independent hands as often as, say, Dan Moore, who does it pretty routinely. He's gotten really comfortable with that. And when I say independent hands, it means you're kind of punching with one hand at a time at different spots. You punch me with your left hand first, and you'll hit the right hand a little bit lower. That makes it harder to knock down your hands. Because if you're independent hands and you get one hand knocked down, you have the other free to punch and refit and keep fighting. If you have a two-hand punch and you get your hands knocked down, both come down, and now the deep defender is able to beat you. And that's what is happening with Jones in part, where he's two-hand punching the entire time. But it's not even like he's getting his hands knocked down. He is getting just his chest exposed. He's getting uprighted.
Rousseau just grabbed a hold of that wrist on him on that one. I mean, he just locked that wrist right up.
Right. It was kind of I think they call it wasn't exactly the Hamilton technique, but it was kind of like that, where you just push the arm up and get under him. But that's also because his punch is just missing. His hands are not tight. They're super wide. They're not creating any sort of contact. Again, Pat Meyer's motto is be aggressive, first significant contact. He's not making any contact at all. Ross McCorkle has a great breakdown on the site, recapping all that. So, I mean, that's the what of what is happening with Broderick Jones. The question is the why, and can it get better? And if it can't in a couple of weeks, then I think you have to go with Dan Moore and Troy Fautanu as your starting tackles.
And here's the thing. I'm not discounting anything. Greg Rousseau's a fine pass rusher, but this team's going to face even better pass rushers than Rousseau this year,
including Matthew Judon in week 1, where if Jones hypothetically were to be playing right tackle, you'd see a lot of Judon, but he plays both sides. And if this is the tape that Jones has, I promise you teams will attack him until they show that he can be a better pass protector.
All right. So we got that big tackle question lingering, and probably will continue to linger between now and week 1.
Yeah, I mean, what would you do if Jones is in this current state? And
he can't play the way he's playing right now. Period.
So you would go with, assuming he's healthy and cleared, Fautanu and Moore?
I mean, I think you have to.
Yeah, I think based on how things currently look, if something changes, then we can have that conversation. But of the 3 tackles, and 2 of them have been hurt, but of the 3, Dan Moore's been the best tackle this summer, at least in terms of preseason action.
Yeah, and all that, kind of small talk we've had all to the side. Well, could this team get to a position where maybe they get down to the final cut down and they're happy with the tackles? Maybe Dan Moore might be shipped off. I definitely don't see how you can do that now.
No chance that Dan Moore gets dealt. They're going to hold on to him, and he's got a good chance to start in Pittsburgh week 1. All right, Dave, what else here for the offense? Justin Fields comes in relief. He was able to scramble some, led the only points drive on a Chris Boswell field goal. Your thoughts on Fields' performance second time out?
I'm not so sure we learned much more about Justin Fields in this game either, especially situationally. I mean, you get into those last couple of drives there, 11 personnel, and he did things with his feet that we already knew he could do. And I thought that aspect, at least in a very unexciting game from an offensive standpoint for the Steelers, at least you had that to come away with. Mike Tomlin a couple of weeks ago said something along the lines like, I'd rather say woe than sick him. In other words, not going to be overly concerned about him taking off with the football. I mean, if there were highlights in this game, he was involved with him with his feet. The longest play from scrimmage that this team had against the Bills was a 20-yard scamper by him. I did not like some of the specific schematics of some of these zone reads with him that they tried to utilize, especially one, I think, about a series or two earlier in the game. They ran the same play going one way, I think on, was it a first or second down? And then they go back into that fourth and goal situation and go back to that same damn play. And it wasn't blocked up good schematically. It didn't feel right. And then both of those were essentially negative plays for Justin Fields. I thought throwing the football for the most part was fine with him. Overall, I thought he made some fairly decent decisions overall. We can get into the look, they were one play away from winning this game. As bad as this game was, if they connect on that deep ball from Justin Fields to Luther, we're talking about a ugly Steelers win today instead of a loss, more than likely here. My main takeaway from Justin Fields' performance in this game was I don't think that we learned that much more. Alex?
I agree. I think in terms of the quarterback race, the way that it's been framed as pole position and some of the NASCAR references, I don't think Russell Wilson gained any ground on Justin Fields. I don't think Justin Fields made up any time on Russell Wilson. I think it's really status quo, and that's partially due to the poor offensive line play and lack of rhythm for the offense that really didn't allow these teams to get into drives and give these guys some really quality work and looks to deal with. But regardless, I don't see any sort of movement in the quarterback race right now. I mean, Fields was, if you had to choose, just a bit better because he could extend and had that great, out of a sack where he hit Des Fitzpatrick along the left sideline for that decent gain. Nice catch there by Fitzpatrick off the tip of that Bills defender. But, overall, it was just really ugly all around.
Right. We went into this knowing that he could use his feet, right?
Yeah, like you said, it's fun. It's exciting. I talked about this before the preseason began, that you get to see Fields do these things against lower level competition and be able to make some of these exciting plays, which he did, but that box has already been well checked.
All right.
Let me ask you it was talked about a ton yesterday on the misconnection from Fields to Luther. A lot of people blaming Fields, a lot of people blaming Luther. Where do you come in on the miscue on that one?
Yes.
I think you said it the best. I think you can critique both Fields and Luther, but what it comes down to is the context. If you have TJ Luther, who was signed on Wednesday, the last day of training camp, I'm sure has never had a single pass thrown to him from Justin Fields prior to that moment in stadium. and just we don't have the reps. Guys aren't on the same page, and that's kind of what happens in the preseason sometimes. So really, I mean, I think Fields could have put that ball a little bit better. It depends on what the coaching point is, the aiming point is, or the route and the throw. I thought Fields was off a little bit. I thought Luther didn't adjust well and lost track of the football and slowed down and mistimed his jump. So I think there's blame to be had on both guys there. But I think the overall point is that you have, a brand new receiver with a quarterback he's never caught from before. You're trying to hit this pretty precise route 40 yards downfield, and it wasn't, they weren't on the same page. And that happens when you have those circumstances.
Luther played one snap in this game. That was it. And look, I mean, it's a concept that this team's used to running, right? Yankee ride or whatever you want to call it in this situation here. It looked, I saw all the Twitter analysis in real time of that play of the TV tape. I saw both people saying that's on Fields, that's not on Fields. I knew better than to chime in on it until I had the all 22 view. And when looking at the all 22 view of it, both the press box view and the end zone view, I feel that Fields thought he was going to keep going vertically a little bit more. And had Luther gone vertically a little bit more instead of cutting it in a little bit and kind of stuttering and trying to he was trying to run away from his man more is what he was trying to do. Instead of continuing to win a little, another 2 yards vertically.
And I get him doing that because all he had was green grass.
Right.
And the quarter had outside leverage to run away from leverage.
Right. And I feel if he would have at least extended that. Here's something else too. Luther probably could have stemmed that a little bit more to the outside. Better to widen it a little bit there on top of it. Look, we don't know how they are drawing up that particular play and teaching it. I do feel though if Luther would have done a little bit more on his job of being a little bit more precise, then regardless of where that ball, if that ball ends up in the same spot, it becomes more catchable, if you will. My overall analysis is it's on both those guys. To what degrees you want to put on it is fine. The fact of the matter is they missed it. They did not connect on it. It should have been, the offensive linemen have their arms up in the air in that when that ball, they thought that was a home run in that. But I think there's probably equal amounts of blame to put on both Luther and Fields. But I do think the important context here is that you've got a wide receiver that's barely been with the team a few days. He probably did not get much, if any, reps. That might have been the first damn time he ran that route as a member of the Steelers.
I bet. And the first time I'm sure Fields has ever thrown his way. It didn't happen in the Wednesday practice, and I'm guessing it didn't happen in the Thursday joint practice either. Right.
So, I mean, you get two guys out there that don't play with each other. Hey, go deep, and I'm going to try to hit you, and look, even though it didn't impact, there was a little minor pressure at the end there against Fields. He had to get that ball out. It was bumped at the end there, almost like you do in a dance club. But my main takeaway is on both of them.
That's where Dave and I spend our days at the clubs these days. So I'm sure we have both experience about how all that goes. Yeah, I think it just depends on the aiming point and the coaching point of where Luther's route is supposed to break. I think generally you hear on those kind of skinnier posts on the near upright is kind of the aiming point. And if that was the case, then Fields missed his target. And I thought Luther ran the correct route, but I don't know for sure. And then, of course, you're trying to adjust to the ball mid-flight, and Luther certainly could have done a better job adjusting to that. And people said, well, George Pickens makes that catch and Justin Jefferson makes that catch. Probably, but TJ Luther is not George Pickens or Justin Jefferson. So as they always say, not about the X's and O's, about the Jimmies and the Joes in the context of who Luther is and his newness to the team. needs to be considered and really has not been talked about besides you and I.
Look, if you whatever side you are on the Fields narrative, you can make this one particular play fit it, right? If you're what was the thing in draft day? Were they making the pick so and so or
no matter what?
No matter what, yeah, Justin Fields, no matter what. If you're in that side of the camp, then you're going to blame this on Luther. If you're in, Fields is horrible, he can't be a starting quarterback in the NFL, then you're going to blame it on him. I did not after watching all the tape, period, on Justin Fields from this game, go, Christ, what are you doing? This guy, and then that play in particular, I like I said, I just view it up as a miscommunication and inability to hit a deep ball down the field on a shot play. That was there, and you lost the game because you did not hit that play.
Yeah, well said. Other thoughts here offensively? Anything else? Again, it's difficult to really evaluate. Thought with Michael P. Ryan, a couple nice runs to the corner. Aaron Champlin, a bit of burst, and there's some opportunities there potentially with Ward's injury. Thought those guys took advantage offensively.
How about Fitzpatrick? Let's have a Fitzpatrick discussion and not the defensive side of the ball, Fitzpatrick.
The Dez version of the Fitzpatricks on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Yeah, 2 catches, led the team in receiving. That was a low bar, but still did. Had that great sideline catch I mentioned earlier off the tip to show concentration, body control. Had a tackle on special teams. It was a good outing for Dez Fitzpatrick as he fights for that 5th wide receiver spot.
When you talk about guys that doing everything in their power that they can control to make a 53-man roster as a bubble or just outside the bubble type player, Dez Fitzpatrick, in my opinion, has done that in these first 2 preseason games. That was a tough catch to make along the sideline there because that ball was tipped. He had to watch his feet still get it, make sure those are down. In tough situations, late in preseason games, you ask them to make plays, right? And he made a play in that situation. Also, you had what do you call that concept over there on the boot to that Fields had where Fitzpatrick's coming across on the mid-level cross? I always kind of refer to these as kind of levels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, maybe this isn't the right way to frame it. To me, it was kind of a snag spot because you had the flash, you had this kind of curl route with Fitzpatrick on the crosser acting as that, and the corner route, kind of this 3-level combination route. I don't know if you'd really call that snag because it's not really typically referenced out of play action boots, but whatever you want to call it, a play action boot.
It's a half high read. Yeah, and it's a half field situation where you give your quarterback 3 different levels to go to, and if everybody does their job equally against that specific defense that the Bills rolled out there, somebody's going to be open, right? And
it's a low high read. You read the flat first. If he's not there, you're progressing second and third read down.
Right, and the 7 route was run properly enough to draw the defender away from the crosser. And even though it was just it if you look at it on tape, you just go, I don't know how you can give Fields that or Fitzpatrick that good of a grade on that play because it was just an easy pitch or catch. But everybody did their job on that play. And I think my big takeaway where I'm getting to and rolling this back to Fitzpatrick is he runs that route all out from the opposite side of the field to put himself in a position where he can be the open guy on that levels concept. He did that. Fields did a good job of waiting for him to come open and hit him. So what I'm going with this is, even though it was an easy pitch and catch, a nice design on the play, Fitzpatrick did what he was supposed to do 100% on that play, and he was a beneficial of an easy pitch and catch.
And not much came easy in this game offensively, so I'll take it, and I'll celebrate that when I can. So that was good, but Fitzpatrick is not going to be viewed as an asset as a receiver. He's going to be like number 4, number 5 in the depth chart. So really his still claim to making this team is special teams, which did look better. I got to go back into the all-22 on special teams. Have not gotten to that point yet. Did have the tackle. but I still want to see someone really take hold of that gunner job. Fitzpatrick has gotten the opportunities. He's run first team gunner against Houston and against Buffalo. So that's kind of putting him in the driver's seat, but I want to see him be able to really lock that down with a big time play. The net punting, the coverage unit was better in this game than week one, but I've still not felt like any of these guys have really cemented their spot in that gunner role.
I think he played 10 special team snaps in this game overall. They're giving him every opportunity to do it. I thought his run blocking I thought there was enough run blocking there when it comes to him. Dez Fitzpatrick, and like you said, if you're going to be, let's say it's a fifth wide receiver in here, your snaps are probably going to be extremely limited. You're making the roster because of your special teams play, but top to bottom in this game for Dez Fitzpatrick, I do not think he hurt his chances both as an offensive player and as a special teams player.
Anything else in the receiver room? George Pickens.
Scotty Miller still continues to show up and just all he does is make catches, right? Nothing flashy about it. I think he's assignment sound with what Scotty Miller gives you. Obviously Scotty Miller, unless he's going to be returning, be serving as a returner, you're probably not going to get much out of him in that role. But I mean, He's doing what you ask him to do in 2 preseason games. He got 1 special team snap in this game, Scotty Miller, 22 on offense. By the way, Dez Fitzpatrick played 27 offensive snaps in this game.
As pure wide receivers, rank these 3 guys in terms of talent and their ability as a wide receiver: Calvin Austin, Scotty Miller, and Dez Fitzpatrick.
As far as offensive play only?
Yes, just strictly wide receiver offensive play.
Man, I'd probably put Miller and Austin 1A, 1B right there together.
Miller's 1A though?
I could probably flip a coin either way there.
Making you choose. I'm going Miller, Austin, Fitzpatrick.
I mean, Fitzpatrick obviously going to be last on that list.
Yeah. So that's, you got to get some teams value in there if you want to dress, and Fitzpatrick's going to fight for that. Yeah, Miller they came, I think, 2-minute drill, some of the sideline throws that they were kind of easily allowing Buffalo was, but still, I think Miller's had a good camp overall. Austin, he get targeted in this game, and we had a false start. Is there a target for Austin?
Let me see if he saw any targets in this game.
Can't think of anything.
I'm not seeing anything. I don't think he was targeted anyway.
Okay. Anything else, George Pickens? I thought that was a catch along the left sideline. Super, super close. I thought it was a good challenge by Tomlin. No shame in losing that one. It was pretty, bang, bang. But just the fact that even that was as close to being a catch as it was ruled, and even if it was ruled incomplete, I mean, that is, even by George Pickens' incredible standards, one heck of a catch.
A great effort on his part. If the ball maybe is placed a little bit better, he doesn't have to go through all that, and he definitely does get. But you could talk about that being probably the second biggest miss in the game, right?
Yeah, that's one. I mean, it was tight coverage along the sideline. You think it was good placement in terms of being outside shoulder. Could have been a bit more inside. I mean, maybe, but I thought that was just unfortunate the way that it was out by, I guess, an inch or so, but tremendous effort by George Pickens.
Right. And Russell Wilson praised Pickens on, I think, one of those choice routes when those two were on the field together there. So here's the thing, though. Top to bottom, is this wide receiver room good enough?
Yeah, the jury's still out. I thought Van Jefferson, a little shakier in this game, had to drop. There was another third down that he almost kind of double caught, but did catch before the Boswell miss. So still, to me, needing that extra receiver, and Ayuk situation remains really unchanged right now. So no updates there.
Yeah, as far as for your daily Brandon Ayuk update, he was supposedly, according to Kyle Shanahan, at that game, at the 49ers game against the Saints Sunday night, and up in the box with the IR players. So he supposedly was at that game, but everything else remains status quo.
One schematic note, and I have this clip pulled, I'll tweet out here after the podcast, going through the tape late last night. I like the alignment changes for George Pickens. They got him, I think they were an empty one play. Pickens number 3, the innermost slot receiver. They ran Hoss wide juke, where they had Pickens number 3 on that option route over the middle on a linebacker. And he ran a little shake, a little nod on him.
Was that one
free.
where he should have been hit on that play? Feels like it.
Pickens felt like it, a little, not frustrated, but kind of felt like I was open. That was the one to Jefferson on the right side that Jefferson dropped. So I just like the conceptual aspect of that. That's the old Patriots play they would run with Gronk down the seam and Walker or Edelman on that choice route over the middle that would kill teams. So I like seeing that in Pittsburgh.
Nice reception and hurdle by Connor Hayward in this game. We're moving to tight ends. Freiermuth had the 1 for 10. Washington was not targeted in this game, but we got to see some bully ball out of Darnell Washington. Snatch trap, right?
Yeah, you had the great clip of him knocking down the hands of a pass rusher and sending him to the ground. Thought the holding call he got called on was kind of ticky-tack.
That
was a good block. Yeah. I didn't seem like holding to me. So, yeah, nothing in the pass game for Washington. Don't even know how many routes he ran. But like I said, this summer has really been all about him as a blocker in terms of what the work he's gotten and the lack of opportunities in the pass game throughout training camp. But his blocking seems to really improve.
Some of these also rans. What'd you think about Michael Pruitt in this game? What'd you think about specifically those couple of read option plays?
Yeah, I know Tomlin had said they were just trying to work on some concepts in this one. So you have to remember the context of even the preseason. Sometimes it's not about just winning the game, but you're trying to work on a cycle of plays to get looks and to get some reps and get some tape out there to be able to evaluate before you have to use it for the first time in games that count. So I thought on the fourth down read option that down near the goal line that Fields got tackled, for a big loss on, probably could have handed that one off to Shamklin. Probably felt like the better option overall. Hindsight's 2020. So I know they were trying to work on some of that stuff. Had an RPO read option where they had obviously the read option aspect, Fields in the back, and then they had a little bubble route by the receiver. So you're seeing some layers to their RPO or to their read option game. Yeah,
what did they do with Cordell Patterson on that one? Kind of a
this orbit motion from right to left, and they'd run that in camp a couple times. It didn't go anywhere, unfortunately. That one I think went for 0 yards, but we've seen that look before in training camp.
Overall, schematically, from play design, it felt even more vanilla than the first game. Now, once again, they were what they have 6 3rd and 8 or more situations, I think, in this game, and was it 8 plays of 7 or more yards on 3rd down in this game?
I don't remember the exact math, like I said earlier, of these.
They didn't convert any of the 6,
right.
8 and longer, and I think the 2 that they converted were 3rd and 7, and I think one of those 3rd and 7s was that levels that we talked about to Fitzpatrick over on the side.
Yeah, like I said, when Wilson was in the game, when all the ones were in the game, they had 6 3rd downs, and their average distance needed was 9.5 yards. You're not going to win. I don't care what your schemes are. I don't care what your talent is. You're not going to win when you're basically in 3rd and 10 consistently.
All right, let's finish back up on the offensive line. We wondered if we'd see Spencer Anderson at right tackle in this game, and we did. I thought as a whole, I thought Spencer Anderson represented himself well at those snaps.
Yeah, he's got a strong base. He's athletic enough. His hands look good. His punch looked good. Played 3 different line spots. He played left guard. Kasey Malu bowed out early with the ones, and then he flipped over to right guard. Anderson did, and then played right tackle to finish things out. So got a bunch of snaps, different positions. It's hard to see him off the roster to not make the 53 based on the injuries, based on his camp, based on his versatility.
What'd you see out of Dylan Cook in this one?
Still going through it. It looked okay. I mean, it looked fine. I think it's kind of been his camp, and steady and solid, but not super spectacular. I think just left tackle only in this game. But when you got some tackle issues, then maybe a guy like Cook, do you want to let that guy go? And you do wonder about him getting exposed to waivers. That's why he was kept last year. Still could get scooped up this year.
Jack Coletto only played like 4 snaps in this game. In total, didn't get a long look at him.
What does it say about, just jumping here quickly on tight end, Michael Pruitt got 19 offensive snaps, Rodney Williams just 4. That's another troubling sign for Rodney Williams.
Yeah, but what does it say about Pruitt playing just 4 special team snaps? And in the first punt, in the primary punt team, Williams was out there as one of the wings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fair. I mean, Williams has gotten a lot of that work in the summer, and he doubled Pruitt's special team snaps 8-4. So that
who would be that wing if Rodney Williams isn't?
I'd have to look at some of my diary notes. It's been a lot of Williams, Coletto, Ward. You're not sure who's all making the 53 from there. It honestly will probably end up being week 1 based on, it's probably going to be Deshaun Elliott as one of them. And then
on the right side.
Yeah, probably Elliott on the right side as the right wing. The left wing, it's going to partially depend on who makes the team. Again, it could be Williams, could be Coletto. I'd have to look at some of the other options there.
I mean, from what we've seen so far of guys that legitimate chances of making a roster, it's not a huge selection of choices here.
Yeah. We'll have to see how the roster gets constructed out, but there should be some options there. By the way, Pittsburgh's making a signing. We know it's going to be a pretty active week, I'm going to guess, here in terms of roster moves, because they're going to sign linebacker, and the pronunciation is going to be difficult here, so I apologize. Kayava Tizino, former 49ers linebacker, according to Aaron Wilson, he is signing with a team today. So there is right now no open roster spot. They'll have to make a corresponding move. Have to see what that is. But with the injuries this team's dealing with, there's going to probably be some pretty good moving and shaking throughout the week.
He's an inside guy, isn't he?
It's my feel here. He was playing in the USFL at San Diego State. I think he's more inside, but I'm just getting eyes on the report here right now.
All right.
So that's probably going to be the first of potentially several moves and probably a bunch of workouts that'll keep us busy throughout the week. All right, Dave, anything else here offensively, or we can?
You think Jacob Copeland could be the one out the door here? He did not see any snaps. Wide receiver did not see any snaps in this game.
Yeah, wouldn't shock me. Some of this is based on how much you plan on playing some of the starters in the last game and what guys you might need from a depth standpoint. But Copeland, to his credit, has hung on throughout the entire summer. But he is, if there is a number 91 on the roster, it feels like he's number 91. All right, defensively, much better. It was a lot more fun to watch the defensive tape. And while Pittsburgh's offense struggled, Buffalo's offense was not exactly lighting up the scoreboard, with old friend Mitch Trubisky starting this one. Josh Allen held out, holding Buffalo to just 9 points, 3 field goals. The second team defense and second half run defense was pretty poor. We'll talk about that later. But the first team group, really solid. Nick Herbig, a lot of pressure. I thought the D-line overall, the starters played excellent football. Larry Ogunjobi had a really good game. Keanu Benton played well. DeMarvin Leal, when he rotated in, had pressures and beat blocks. So that was positive to take away, was the defensive performance.
Nick Herbig shot out of a cannon on that TE stunt there. Got to the quarterback in a hurry. Herbig, I thought top to bottom had a good game for the time he was in there. I thought Keanu Benton, you got some great clips on Twitter. Keanu Benton doing the Keanu Benton type things that we expect him to do this season. Larry Ogunjobi, I think I said this after the first preseason game. Man, he looks healthy. That's the best that guy's moved since he's been in a Steelers uniform, as far as I can tell right now. And that's what they need out of him. I thought Dean Lowry did a few decent things in the snaps that he played. Overall, when you look at the frontline guys, obviously no Cameron Hayward yet in the preseason, no TJ Watt, no Alex Highsmith. Kyron Johnson. They rolled Kyron Johnson out there for a lot of snaps on both sides. I thought he was okay overall, top to bottom. I think the thing that maybe I kept looking and I was like, man, did I miss Jeremiah Moon in this game? Jeremiah Moon, 5 defensive snaps in this game. When you talk about 2 dogs, 1 bone, one of those guys had that bone in his mouth quite a few times in this game overall, and that was Kyron Johnson. 41 defensive snaps in this game for Kyron, 7 on special teams. Even Julius Welshoff, and congrats to Julius on a sack. 41 snaps in this game on defense. Even though Welshoff, international player, it would be an absolutely stunning upset if he makes this 53-man roster. But the fact that he's getting 41 defensive snaps in this second preseason game when Jeremiah Moon gets 5, something's going on there.
Yeah, I can't understand that one. I mean, they play Johnson and Welshoff a ton. There was not a lot of edge rotation there. And Moon, I don't think he got hurt. He played 20 snaps on special teams, which is good from that aspect, but only to play 5 defensively is how many special team snaps? I think I'm reading
7.
the wrong number. 7. I'm reading the overall number. But I mean, he seems like he played throughout the game. So unless he did get hurt, no one mentioned it. Tomlin didn't say it after the game. There was no mention by the team. Curious to see the lack of rotation there.
Yeah, that's interesting update to that battle right there. Linebackers, Queen, Roberts seemed to play well together in this one. I thought Thomas Graham Jr., I mean, nothing hugely spectacular, but I thought, he played okay in the slot in here. But look, what's going to happen with that spot, Alex?
It's a good question. I mean,
he had the pass breakup coming across on following a crosser on one of them there. I thought he did some okay things against a run.
Had a missed tackle though, and that's gonna ding him. To be determined on the slot battle. We'll see what Bishop can look like in the finale. The good news is Tomlin has indicated it sounds like he's going to play Bishop will against Detroit. Still open. I think this has not been won, and not necessarily even won by an insider. Outsider could still be considered. But Graham's had a good camp, and that was a big opportunity for him. Did he make the most of it? Some plays on the table, but overall, it was an acceptable performance.
All right. We saw some trice in there, I think, and some dime, correct?
We did. Got to see some dime packages in this game for 1 or 2 snaps. I think one was a penalty, but still nice to see that. What the 6 DB package looked like. Queen as the lone inside linebacker and Trice out there. So I mentioned that earlier in training camp. They were getting some looks with Trice and dime. He's got that size and can maybe match up on some tight ends or some bigger slot type of guys and fill that role. I was watching Trice's performance last night. It was, still needing more tape and more snaps. And unfortunately, Buffalo was able to run the heck out of the football in the second half. So you weren't getting a lot of great coverage reps to evaluate Trice on. But it was okay. I thought he was patient in terms of his press and was able to match routes decently. I think he got a little grabby on the one where he was a little off balance. Had a good tackle on a run play, which most of the secondary did not tackle well. So that'll give Trice a leg up. Should make this team potential dime use for him. To be continued, though, as we continue to evaluate these guys. And I still would advocate for an outside corner being brought in.
It would have been nice to see more Peyton Wilson in this game. Had to leave with concussion-like symptoms there. Mark Robinson.
I don't think Wilson was that great in this game before getting hurt. I thought his run defense was pretty shaky, getting out of gaps, not using his hands well.
All right. Mark Robinson represented himself well, both on defense and in special teams in this game.
He had a great game. He was flying around. Good run fits. As you said, special teams tackle. Had that tackle on Trubisky on that scramble drill where he almost broke contain and made a play, but Robinson took him down after a 1-yard gain. So I thought Robinson really helped his cause in this one.
I think they've got him as a primary lineman on the punt team there.
Yeah, he's one of the front guys. So he should I think we'll make this team as that number 4, number 5 inside linebacker.
Let's see. Logan Lee, more snaps at nose tackle.
Yeah, I was disappointed to see that. He played some more end. I'll have to pull up my charting on the distribution. He plays too high. I think Chris Hoke talked about him needing to be more physical, but that pad level is an issue. And I think, I was hoping he would play less over nose. He did. And so a little disappointing with that, but his play was pretty spotty. And by the way, former Steelers running back Anthony McFarland is signing with the Miami Dolphins. So congrats to McFarland. He had a strong end to the UFL season. Played well down the stretch, and he's back in the NFL.
All right, back to defensive lineman. I didn't think Loudermilk had all that great of a game overall. I thought Leal outplayed him in this game, but talk about formationally where you charted Leal in this game.
I should have my charting pulled up here, but I forgot to get it ready here before the podcast. He played a lot more outside linebacker in this game than he did in the opener. Let me just turn off my filters and get everything set. Let's see, for Leal, again, I was happy with his play overall. We got him down for 14 total snaps. That would include any potential no plays and penalties. 11 at left outside linebacker. I got 2 at right D tackle, and that would, of course, leave 1 at left defensive end. And I think that was him at outside linebacker, but he had his hand down. I designate those as end snaps to show how often a guy has his hand down. So essentially, he was playing almost exclusively outside linebacker.
No special team snaps for DeMarvin Leal.
Yeah, they've used a little bit on kick stuff there, kickoff coverage. Did Loudermilk get some snaps? I'm still working through the tape on that, but I thought I saw a reference.
2 special team snaps for Loudermilk.
Do we know where those came?
I have
those
not.
Field goal?
I have not gotten to that yet.
They may have been field goals because Boswell had 2 attempts, right?
Right.
The miss and the make. So I'll have to double check that. But yeah, not that you need Leal to play special team snaps, but it wouldn't hurt his cause. Would be interesting given his athletic skill set.
All right. What else on defense? That and Mike Tomlin said this after the game, that unit just got wore down, wasn't able to, get what was it? The opening drive of the Bills in the second half. How many plays was that?
I mean, at one point they had run the ball like 8 straight plays on one of those drives. So my charting, I mean, you can just kind of feel when teams don't pass, when I have the lack of, blitz notifications and those things, designations. So
they had 10 and 14 play drives in their first 2 possessions. And that defense was just not gashed per se, because Buffalo only had 1 explosive play in this game overall, but just, getting themselves set up situationally and allowing Buffalo to convert third downs and stuff like that. So the second half, now when it came to crunch time at the end there, they got a 3 and out when they needed to give them a chance, one final chance there. But and then obviously the last position, Buffalo only had the ball 4 times in the second half, and the final 2, the final possession was the kneel down. So technically only 3 possessions, and the 2 meat possessions in the first 2 of the second half. They moved the ball fairly easily there and on the ground at that, as you stated.
Yeah, ran for over 100 yards in the second half. Buffalo did. You got the linemen like Jacob Slade, Marquise Spencer, those guys getting blown off the ball pretty consistently. I thought secondary run support was really poor. Ton of missed tackles in this one by Averett, by Graham, by Jalen Elliott, who doesn't usually miss a lot of tackles. Kyler McMichael had a horse collar and maybe a missed tackle as well. It was pretty ugly across the board. That's why I thought Trison's one, good run fit and tackle was notable. I thought Darius Rush had a decent game, had that one breakup in the end zone, kind of an underthrown football, but still end zone breakup. We'll take it. And then I don't know if he really contested that one slant on the goal line. I think maybe Elliott's footsteps impacted things more, but I got him down, rushed 0 for 2 when targeted. So that was positive.
All right. What else defense stuck out to you? I think the story was that front early.
Yeah, the D-line looked strong, the starting D-line, that is. Ryan Watts felt a little out of position. I think he got out of his gap on one of those second half runs you referenced. So I've had him on my 53. I'm wondering practice squad for him. I just wonder if he's a little too raw. Unless he were to lock down one of those gunner jobs, he may be more practice squad to start the year. And
they're giving him every opportunity to make impacts on special teams too. He had quite a few, I think, snaps in this game. Ryan Watts did on special teams.
Okay, yeah, I'll have to check that.
He had 11 special team snaps. I'll tell you the leaders in special team snaps in this game. Des Fitzpatrick had 10. Connor Hayward, 13. Peyton Wilson probably would have played a little bit more had he not left the game. He had 9. Rodney Williams had 8 in this game. Mark Robinson, 10. Ryan Watts, 11. Nick Herbig, 12. I think Nick Herbig's going to make this roster, Alex.
I think so.
Miles Killebrew, I think he's going to make this team. 13 special team snaps.
And a pick. Kudos to Killebrew for the interception.
And a pick. You can't control how easy of a ball Mitch Trubisky's going to give you, but if he does give you one, make sure to catch it, and he did. Mm-hmm. Tyler Matakevich, Dirty Red, 15 special team snaps, and for not getting dinged up, he might have even logged even more than that.
Yeah, he did get dinged up, I think an ankle, but he's okay. Tomlin didn't mention in post game he was taking photos with his old team, former Buffalo Bill, after the game, so he's going to be fine. Even Robinson on that Trubisky interception, which sailed 10 feet over the receiver's head, that was Robinson in coverage. So I thought even that was pretty tight coverage to force the high throw that led to the Killebrew interception. So Robinson, one of the best performances of the night in Pittsburgh.
All right. Yeah, agreed. And I wanted to make sure that we did point that out. People say, "Oh, you guys hate Mark Robinson." No, we point out what's good. I mean, he by all signs, Mark Robinson is going to be on this 53. I
think he cemented that case last night.
The draft picks, obviously, most of the draft picks are going to make this 53-man roster. It's hard to make an argument for Logan Lee to be one of them, right?
Yeah, Lee's going to be practice squad to start. He runs hard. He's got some traits, but there's a lot of refinement there in his game. Watts, like I said, I'm starting to wonder about whether or not he makes the 53.
All right, if not him as a fifth safety, what do you do?
Yeah, I mean it's fair. I mean, even if Watts makes the team again, unless he would have become a starting gunner, he'd be inactive. I think weekly. Can any of the corners? I mean, when Cam Sutton returns, obviously he can play safety, but that won't be until week 10. That's a long ways away. You could always go outside too. You could always add an outsider. It's not impossible, but it's probably a little less likely there. I think you probably just go with the 4 safeties, and if injuries happen, then you might make some moves in season.
All right. Anything else defensive side of football here for notables?
Herbig, just to mention that again, obviously he had the sack on that stunt, but he even showed a little power on a speed bull rush. Little James Harrison, working with Harrison this summer, that one practice, and he doesn't create the power that James Harrison does, obviously, and I think Deion Dawkins was able to stall him out, but that was still a good rush. It was good to see.
Sure was. Pushed him on back into the quarterback's lap.
Yeah, so that's all I got though for the defense. A good outing for the starters. The backups, not nearly as pretty.
Right. Agreed.
Special teams, good snaps for Kuntz. Boswell got a little nervous after missing that 52-yarder. I know it's a long field goal, but he makes those routinely, so I was happy to see him bounce back with the 40-something yard make. Cameron Johnston, MVP of the game. Cameron Johnston.
How about it? What's the stat that you have on him?
He had 5 punts. He averaged 56.
Punting. Alex Kozora's punt stats of the weird.
Yeah, of the week. He had 5 punts in this game, averaged 56.8 yards per punt. Had that stat line existed in the regular season, it would have been the best single game punting average by a Steelers punter in NFL history of those with at least 5 punts. And even if you say, well, 5 punts, you're kind of having a obscure, arbitrary number of any Steelers punter with at least 2 punts in the game, that average would have ranked 5th best in single game history. So I think Pittsburgh got a pretty good punter in Cameron Johnston.
I think he's going to make the 53, Alex. I'm going to go out on a limb there.
3 punts over 60 yards along a 65. The concern is going to be the net, and can you cover, especially as you go through and look for new gunners. And the coverage team was better in this one, still not where it needs to be, but that'll be the downside, quote unquote, to having that big leg punter.
All right. What about the returns? Austin 4 for 43. If you average 10.8 yards per punt return, that's not bad.
No, it's not. He was fine. I mean, I trust him back there.
He got leveled on one of them. I was worried if they're going to be able to find him in the turf on one of them.
He's a tough guy, though. To his credit, he's a tough guy. He bounced right back up. So That's good for him. Kick returns. Plumlee got some work. Why is Cordell Patterson not returning a kick?
Yeah, I don't know about that. Maybe they just don't want to show some things. I don't know. But if he's out, if he's healthy out there, you'd think he'd be part of it. You know,
I mean, if these were under the old rules, okay, I'd say they just don't need to give him the reps. Give other guys looks, fine. But under these new rules, I don't know. You want to get him out there, get him a rep or two before the real thing. Week one.
You got one more preseason game. I think you'll probably see him out there.
Yeah. Although, how much running back will he play in this one in the finale with the Warren hurt? And what happens if Warren can't play week one? Is it just all Harris? Do you get Patterson in? How do you distribute the carries?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't. Obviously, the severity of the hamstring injury will decide maybe any 53-man roster manipulation. But man, it's hard to see. Hard to see this team carry another true running back, right?
And who would that be if Ward is even with his hamstring issues?
P. Ryan did some nice things, but is it I don't think he gives you much of anything on special teams.
I mean, you could have elevations, not to get too into the weeds about all that kind of stuff, but that is one possible avenue.
Yeah, that's true. I don't think you carry another one on the 53, especially if the hamstring injury is not serious enough. Yeah, I'm not. I think just as far as rotation goes, first game out of shoot, you get a lot of Najee Harris and you supplement him in there with some Cordell Patterson, who, even though I think they motion him back into the backfield on one of those there, you can have some fun with Cordell Patterson on the field.
Yeah, and they've moved him around. Yeah, I think if Warren can't play week one, as opposed to the just kind of general 60-40 split between Harrison and Warren, it's going to be more 80-20 Harrison Patterson.
Schematically, what did you think about schematically what they try to do offensively?
Offensively, again, as Tomlin said, they were trying to get some looks and run some concepts against Houston week one. They were really emphasizing the screen game to kind of work on those things. This one, it kind of felt like a little more read option, a little more gap runs. They ran, like you said, crunch. They ran that short trap, which they'd run a bunch in week one. So weird though.
That one to the right side it got 9 yards, and it's hard to, but it feels like feels like that.
You're talking crunch?
Yeah. Feels like that might have been a good block away from being more.
I feel like it's how you can describe all their crunch runs they've run since last year. Like they've all come so close. You know what I like the most though on that play? Because the issue is anytime you get Y off, anytime their tight end is off the line of scrimmage, it's always such a big key to the defense of either crunch or typically more of a split zone action. They had Washington on the line, and then very late in the play, they took him off the line and put the receiver on to be legal formationally. And they made the defense adjust to that late to kind of hide. Because what happened was when they played Houston last year, they ran crunch 3 times. But the third time was very clear, like what was coming, and Houston responded to it. So I like these little wrinkles in terms of how they're kind of hiding the alignment to the last second to make the defense react or not recognize it. That's just a very small wrinkle that a veteran OC like Arthur Smith brings to the table.
All right, and you noted earlier in the show the moving around of Pickens, and so you're seeing some notable yet minor adjustments here. Yeah,
the one I didn't like on that short trap, and I have to find the play and show you. They had Broderick Jones trying to block the front side linebacker, which he just has no chance to be able to make that play. No one would have made that play because you just are completely out leveraged. So I'm not sure what the blocking scheme was there. If somebody screwed up their assignment, it didn't look like it, but that was a strange play call.
That 44 on defense blew up a lot of plays, didn't he?
The Buffalo boy, Joe Andreessen, and he's played with the Bulls and had a really good game and had the tackle on Fields on 4th down. So kudos to him.
He had 12 total tackles in this game, 2 tackles for loss. He was cutting through on a couple of those run plays, just blowing them up.
I think he had a bunch in college. I was going to do the report, but I didn't want to spell his last name because he said all E's, Joe Andreessen. How many tackles he had? He had 90 tackles last year for Buffalo, 12 for a loss. So, don't know his status if he'll make the team, but he certainly helped his cause, it looked like.
Yeah, he did. He won't be on the waiver wire long if he did. I can't see them cutting him.
Defensively, any schematic things stick out to you? Look pretty vanilla.
Yeah, especially in the second half there, and the first team unit. once again, even without Watt and Highsmith, that unit looked good.
Couple interesting slot blitzes, like the Herbig sack was a great call with a stunt in the slot blitz there from Graham. But yeah, coverage wise, very little bit of rotation, little cover 2 invert, but a lot of cover 2. Cover 3 was kind of all they ran all game.
All right,
Dave. Any final thoughts?
No, just the defensive tape was a lot more fun to watch than the offensive tape was, for sure. And I was excited going into this game about seeing Wilson play, and then I was hoping, obviously, Justin Fields would get a few series in this game, and he did. Tomlin wanted to win this game.
Yeah, is there anything in particular that gave you that?
It just, there was an opportunity after 4 series to put, to say that I'd seen enough. At that point, I think Mike Tomlin really wanted to win this game.
I think it was just they hadn't seen enough at that point. They hadn't gotten quality work in. They were trying to get extra drives, trying to string this thing out to hopefully get a 10-play drive. But
even he had said at halftime they wanted to utilize his legs more, yada yada. I mean, if that was a game, felt like it's just minor. My main takeaway at the end is, man, they really wanted, Mike Tomlin wanted to win this game.
Yeah, I think he's a competitor and everyone wants to win. And even in preseason, life is better when you win than when you lose. You wanted to have one good offensive play that you could hang your hat on and be like, okay, we finally at least did this. And it didn't really come in this one, unfortunately. Who helped in terms of making the team or securing their spot? Who helped their cause the most in this game and who hurt their cause the most in this game?
I think Mark Robinson helped his chances in this game. I think Des Fitzpatrick helped his cause in this game. I think Spencer Anderson helped his cause in this game.
Good point.
I think, let me roll through here. Let's see if I'm missing anybody else overall. If we're talking kind of fringe type guys, I think that's it. That's the list.
Anybody that hurt their cause, that one's probably a little harder to come up with a couple of names.
I don't think Graham went out there and I don't think Thomas Graham Jr. went out there and said that, I dare you to give this job to anybody else. Who else? Trying to roll through some of the names here.
Yeah,
I mean, obviously with Jeremiah Moon getting the amount of snaps just on a snap volume, I don't think that helps his cause.
Do you think
there?
I'm just theorizing. Do you think they had the plan of let's play Johnson a bunch of snaps in this one, and then we'll play Moon a bunch of snaps in the finale to get those guys like super long looks consistently, playing a little tired?
I suppose it could be. I mean, I have to go on what's in front of me.
Oh, sure. Yeah. As of right now, the kudos to Johnson. His run defense, though, like he's fast, he's explosive, but he gets bullied against the run. Even Zach Davidson, who was like a punter, long snapper, tight end from, I don't know, some small D2 school, was pushing him around the one play. So is that a guy with a run defense? Like Nick Herbig is a much better run defender despite being a slighter frame guy.
Kyron Johnson is a superb, everything you'd want out of a Malik Reed, because he can also play on special teams, but there is a ceiling on him for sure. He's a better player than Malik Reed was during his time with the Steelers. But where does that leave you?
Yeah, so still watching this battle. I think.
And here's the thing: you don't want that fourth outside linebacker probably to play a ton of defensive snaps overall, right? I mean, there's gonna have to be the special teams aspect of it. But if you put Kyron Johnson in situations where all he has to do is rush the passer, he could probably get you some pressures,
He can, but Pittsburgh doesn't rotate their linebackers to situational pass rushers. Like you got to be able to do it all and play the run first. So I don't know. I mean, he said a good camp overall. I think he's got the edge over Moon right now, but I really want to see, like, if Moon does not play much in this finale, then okay, that tells you what you need to know. I'm just because why would you not rotate at all Welshoff and Johnson, just even give somebody a breather? That was kind of a curious decision.
Yeah, I don't understand that. P. Ryan, I think if you want to, I mean, he's probably not going to make the 53, obviously, but I think P. Ryan helped himself. Shampkin had some tough runs and was physical.
Yeah, so we'll keep watching, and you get one more outing. The starters, should the starters play? The offensive starters play in this finale against Detroit?
Man.
I say yes. I say
yeah.
you can't go in the week one.
Man, if you could get Russell Wilson out there to lead a 8-play touchdown drive, then
want a first down at this point.
Then yank him, you know.
Yeah, not going to play him as much in the finale, but play maybe you can get one quality drive, then pull them. If not, then get 2 drives.
Yeah, I mean the good thing is you have that extra week, but I mean you do work. You can't play scared, right?
Yeah.
You got to get some. You got to get more. You have to get more positives down on tape. Period. On the offensive side of football.
Agreed. And just all the newness and Wilson missing some time, just get some reps, get some work in. Plus, I know it's preseason, but go on the road. Your first 2 games are on the road. Be a tough environment. Let's get the offense out here on a road game. Maybe even work on a silent count, even if you don't have to work on a silent count. But let's get some reps in on that because you're going to have to probably use it here to open up the season. Get that road environment after playing the first 2 games at home.
All right. Shall we wrap it up with some emails?
Yep, let's get to some reader emails and close out today's show.
All right, Rich Hud. Good day, fellas. 2 questions here. It seems Broderick's right arm is the one hurt. Could this be the reason he is struggling as it's his outside arm? Could be a great time to make his left tackle switch. Do you agree? Next, with the Jaylen injury, I think it highlights Najee's real superpower. Can Najee still keep it up for however long Jaylen Warren is out? We had I don't want to rehash a lot of this. We talked a lot about Broderick early in this show today, but it does make you wonder, even if switching sides with the right arm being an issue, how much of a difference it would make still.
Yeah, it's not going to be enough. I mean, I get the point, but if you can't punch, you can't punch. You got to be able to utilize both hands. So, it's not that's not the cure all to this.
And I'm not worried about Najee handling maybe an increase in snaps while Jaylen recovers. You?
No, I'm not super worried about that. I mean, Harris was the workhorse back as a rookie for short periods of time. That's fine.
Deshaun Campbell writes in, "Some guys, I know everyone is tired of the Ayuk thing. Seems more and more likely he's staying in San Francisco." He says, "My question is, what takes so long for these deals to be done? Isn't it as simple as 2 sides on a phone, few hours of talking to reach an agreement? Why days and weeks if it just comes down to 4th-year money?" I wish I had a great answer to that, Deshaun. There are so many things that go into contracts and all, and percentage of guaranteed money, cash flow of the first 2-3 years, APY, offset language, man, there's just so many, are they maybe negotiating any up to amounts with incentives with him? It's an impossible question to answer, Deshaun. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't have an answer either. I guess the question is he's asking, why does it take so long? Not even about what is the issue, but why can't these guys just get into a room for 2 hours and just figure this out? I guess the answer is just, it's a busy time of year. There's a lot going on. There's a bit of a negotiation dance as well. And these things you can't get these guys in the room because there's so much to do throughout the day.
Yeah. I mean, I wish I would love that. Deshaun, I'd love to have all the transcripts of the back and forth. I would eat that up. Be right in my wheelhouse. I'd learn a few things that way. Jalen Brown writes in, Broderick issues. Hey guys, first time, long time. But really, I'll cut to the chase. How do you evaluate Pat Myers in this Broderick Jones fiasco? I ask because it feels like since he's gotten here, we've gone through this cycle of guys taking half a season to get acclimated to the system and then slowly but surely looking like like a competent unit. Not to mention, I still don't feel great about the evaluation or lack thereof of Kendrick Green and Kevin Dotson, who went to succeed in greener pastures. Now Broderick is playing out of position mixed with the need to do the Myers system with the independent hand fighting is null and void with his injury. I just feel feel like Meyer is the center of all this, and I wonder if the time it takes to learn the system vary in results when it's learned. Dotson and Green misreads, and now Broderick. How do you see it? First and foremost, it starts at the top of the organization. I have no problem putting some of this maybe on Pat Meyer, but he's not making all the calls here.
Sure. And I don't think he has the authority to really dictate necessarily where these guys are aligning. And he wasn't in the building when they drafted Kendrick Green, so I can give him on the pass for a lot of that stuff. But I think the critique that is most fair is the slow starts, where I do think it takes time for these guys to learn the system. There's an adjustment, a learning curve. Some guys get it quicker than others. But I think the slow starts you can put on Meyer, and this team can knock it out to a slow start. So I'm not going to evaluate, do you keep Pat Meyer based on the preseason? Those things are based off of regular season results. Obviously, we'll see how things look going forward. And with Jones, yeah, I don't think Meyer's the guy saying let's bounce this guy around. I think that's more of a above him thing, as you said, Tomlin, Omar Khan. And I think again the injury has to be playing a huge part in his struggles right now, I think.
Andrew Gallus writes in, is it possible Jones loses his right tackle spot to Dylan Cook after this next preseason games? He says, Jones looks terrible. He can't beat out Dan Moore Jr. Is there anything that makes you think he can actually be better than Dylan Cook? I can't believe I'm typing this, but with this Fautano injury, our starting tackles could be Moore and Cook, he writes, after investing back-to-back first rounders at offensive tackle. Me and the core members are flying to Atlanta in 3 weeks, and it looks like we are going to be watching a disaster, especially at tackle. Talk me up, Les. First of all, critiques of Jones obviously are deserved. As far as watching what we've seen in preseason, look, it is preseason. All right. So, we learned last year, not to get too high, not to get, too low in previous preseasons before that. As far as the Cook being thrown in all this, I don't see Cook being a starting right tackle week one. Now, I suppose if Fautano's not ready for week one? I mean, you almost got to throw Broderick Jones out there.
Yeah, I get the point. I think that's the angle of the question, under the assumption that if Fautano's not ready, but the reporting is that he's expected to be, so we'll just have to watch and wait. If he is, obviously, then Cook's not going to be in the equation. Yeah, it's hard to see this team going with Cook over Jones if Fautano's not ready, but I don't know. I just hope that Jones can get some rest. If he needs rest, I'll say this. I don't know if rest is going to be the thing that's going to fix the issue right now, but if he's got an elbow injury that can just be, rest is going to do him some good, he should rest against Detroit. I wouldn't play him if that is going to help him. I don't know if it will, though. But he just cannot. He cannot be out there in his current form.
What do you make of Broderick Jones not meeting with the media after that game, Alex? And the word was he said he got to go see the doctor or something.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Obviously, if you have a medical thing, then you go see the doctor, and you don't have to have any media obligations. He knows how tough of a game it was. I'm okay with him not talking to the media and even using the doctor as cover and a convenient excuse. He's a young guy. I think he's a really hard worker. I like Broderick Jones a lot, but sometimes you just want to just be able to not have to deal with the media after you get your butt kicked. So I'm good with him, avoiding them this time around.
All right, one last one from Ted Bender. He says, I want to start by apologizing to both of you. Well, we don't get many of these emails, Alex.
Yeah, I like Ted.
I like the way Ted's opening this one up. He says, I've spent the last week or so listening to team-specific podcasts for all the other teams in the league, and I'm shocked by how spoiled I have been by the terrible podcast. All right, keep going, Ted. We won't shut you down here. I assume that everyone put in the same amount of work as the two of you and had the same amount of insight into their team's position of battles and contract situations and all other relevant details that inform the state of their teams. Not even close, he writes. The gap between your podcast and the rest of the industry is stunning. It's a wasteland of ignorance out there, he writes. I'm sorry I took you for granted, and I will try to do better. Ted in LA. P.S. The name for your preseason award should be the Cozies. He says, I can't be the first person to suggest that. We'll have to come up with some creative Cozies. I don't know.
Not bad.
I could go with that.
We're on the right track, I think.
The Cozies. Some other person wrote in the Kozora. The Kozora.
I can't even pronounce that.
It's got to be something that even I can pronounce. Which there's not many of those words. Ted in LA, appreciate the email, brother. Look,
Thank you,
we just tried to have conversations about football and the team and go as deep and as educated conversations as possible within this. We try to present as many facts as we think that we can. And we try to also, I think over the years, especially Alex and I, try to, if we don't know something or not 100% sure, we let you know that we're not specific, know the answer, or we try to offer up some highly educated guessing or speculation that goes along with it. Alex and I just love what we do. We can't wait till the all 22 drops every week. I love the salary cap. I love contracts. I love everything about what I'm afforded the opportunity to do. I know Alex feels the same. And I think it just comes down to passion. We are both extremely passionate about what we do. We try to put everything we can into this. Are we 100% right or 100% of the time? Absolutely not. Hopefully people don't expect us to be. And hopefully that's the product that people listen to on this and see on SteelersDepot.com.
And we're just, I think, fueled by the people that share that passion, the people like Ted and others that want to hear about more than just the top headlines and the stars and the main storylines, and want to hear about some of the X's and O's and salary cap and nitty gritty of it all. So I think this is the right place to share that passion. Hey, one other quick note from this game I forgot to mention, and speaking of kind of our love of the details, Joey Porter Jr. wearing the white gloves after the gold gloves last week. I don't know if that's quite coincidence, but I assume it's not after getting called for DPI, matching the Bills' white uniforms. I think it's smart. Obviously, you want to play with good technique, and that's paramount, but anything you can do to get an advantage matters, and having white gloves on white uniforms matters to me.
You're welcome, Joey. We know Joey listens to the podcast, right? And yes. we know we had that big of an impact with this show on Joey Porter Jr. No, we're kidding. There, but yeah, that's a good observation on your part there. Thanks, Ted. Anything else, Alex, before we wrap this one up? A little bit longer show today.
Yeah, no, live stream. We will have a live stream tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern time, so you can join us and ask your Steelers questions like we always do every other Monday, and then we will return on Wednesday.
Absolutely, we will. All right. In the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter/X at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you'd like to help out, donate to the cause, SteelersDepot.com. Hit the donate button. Also, if you like an ad-free version of the site, SteelersDepot.com. Hit the donate button or hit the ad-free button and follow the directions that way. So until Wednesday or later tonight, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.